Oh, that's great. So a start from day one. And here we are now talking about Lockwood Co. So love the series. It's
Oh,
great. Yeah, I've no spoilers though. I'm about five. I think I'm just over halfway through. I think there's 8 episodes. I'm five in.
nice.
For anyone who hasn't discovered it on Netflix yet, give us a little bit of the setup because it's quite a unique world that this is built in.
Yeah, so it's a world where in the 80s, ghosts started appearing on a mass scale. And the kind of trick with this ghost story is if ghosts come in contact with you, they kill you. And that's what makes the stakes so interesting. The other thing is the only people who can sense these ghosts are teenagers. So teenagers are forced to fight these ghosts to detain them to avoid people dying on a mass scale. Our series focuses on 3 teenagers who are in the only agency in London without any adult supervision, and that's Lockwood Co.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because you watch it and it is, 3 young leads who, are the backbone of this show. And yet the themes that these kids are forced to deal with are very adult in nature because of the nature of their job.
I completely agree. I mean, that's what really struck me initially was the fact that it may be labeled as YA, but actually the stakes are survival. There's kind of this backdrop of, sinister corporations and the untrustworthiness of the government, which they also hint at throughout the series. So it really plays with kind of more adult themes, but blends them with these 3 teenagers at the center of it. So it's a nice balance, I think.
I agree. YA can sometimes be a dirty word. It's like, oh well, that's not for me because it's young adults. But actually, this is a far more grown up, and there's a lot of humor in it. It's it's a really great series. It's based on the first 2, I believe, this series, 2 novels from Jonathan Stroud. Tell us who your character is.
So I play George Kareem, who's the head researcher and chef at Portland Row of the agency. He has to research the cases of the ghosts to find out what type of ghost they might be, how dangerous they could be, so the team can do their best to detain it.
And he grows on, not just the viewer, but he grows on Lucy throughout the series, because I was watching it going, okay, well, how is George described? And I found a very funny quote from Lucy. She goes, he's Lockwood's weird mate with 0 social skills.
Oh, yeah, that's a pretty fair. George doesn't have very good social skills, and he also doesn't really have a filter. Like he would just speak or do things without realizing that they're quite awkward or unusual. But that was such a fun thing to play, to be honest, because you could really have a lot of fun in those moments.
Yeah, I bet. And the chemistry between the 3 of you is great. I imagine a part of that is helped by the person who has adapted these books for screen, which is someone who I think is brilliant, the director and writer of Attack the Block, a man who I grew up watching on the Adam and Joe show, Mr. Joe Cornish. How has it been working with him on this?
It's been such a pleasure because, I mean, talking about just loving films, Joe is an encyclopedia when it comes to films, and that was always a kind of way that we communicated, in the sense that I remember when we were first kind of asking each other, okay, who the hell is George? He would say, George is the type of person who stays up all night and watches Evil Dead 1 and 2, Army of Darkness, the Halloween films, Friday the 13th. And that suddenly made me understand a lot about George. But yeah, he's so funny and such a pleasure to work with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's clearly bringing out the best in this series because it's a great series. It's a supernatural series. Like you said, it's a world in which ghosts are real. What was your view of ghosts before you started filming, and has it changed from making this series? Are ghosts real?
Well, the thing is, we'd end up filming it in very kind of spooky locations because we'd be in like an abandoned mansion or like a cemetery at midnight. So it does add to the atmosphere about, ghosts being around. I personally, I don't believe in ghosts, but I definitely am closer to after filming this series.
You have an open mind. So
Do you?
I need to have a first-hand experience. That's my basis. I can listen to every argument, and I have an open mind. But until I see something that I cannot fully explain, at that point I'll be like, "Yup, they're real."
I'm with you.
Yeah, just evidence. Yeah. Evidence. I feel like this is something probably George felt until ghosts actually appeared. I bet he was a cynic.
100%.
Right then.